Welcome to my True Scary Story YouTube channel. I want to welcome you all and ask that you subscribe now and comment on my newest video and introduce yourself. The Sinful Society is very welcoming and are some of the nicest people on YouTube. Be sure to email me your true scary stories. I will leave a link to my email in the description box below so you can send your stories. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Stay sinful. I'm currently a 21-year-old female, and this happened to me about 6 years ago when I was 15. I live in a relatively small town where everyone knows everyone. For a reference, there were about 120 kids in my graduating class in high school. The town is so small there's not a lot of ground to cover, so it wasn't unusual for parents to let their teens wander around outside with their friends. My friend from a different town had come over to my house because we were going to see my school's musical later that night. We decided to go wander around outside until it was time to go. She was from a different town, so she was unfamiliar with the area. I suggested we go down to my local train tracks because there's this cool cliff overpass type thing where you can sit and watch the river. I had been to the train tracks with my friends many times before, and people my age used to hang out there all the time. This was sometime in early March, so it was still quite cold where I lived. Even though it was chilly, I remember distinctly that I wore flip-flops for some reason. This will be important later. The train tracks intersected a street in my town, which was quite close to my house, so this is where we entered the tracks. We were walking and spotted a middle-aged man who was alone and on the phone. We thought nothing of it and kept on walking. We made it to the overpass and were sitting there, just hanging out, when we noticed the man who had passed earlier was slowly inching his way closer and closer. We both noticed this, but decided not to panic, since it's possible he was just slowly making his way down the tracks. Maybe 5 minutes had passed, and the man was getting increasingly closer and closer to us. At this point, we notice that he is getting closer to us at an alarming rate. He's not continuously in motion. It's like we notice him standing still doing whatever, and then a minute later he's standing still, even closer to us than he was prior. Now, he's close enough where we can clearly make him out. He's within an earshot and could easily get to us if that was his goal. My friend and I are starting to get nervous. We're two teenage girls in the middle of essentially the woods, with no one around us other than this creepy man. I've watched a lot of investigation discovery in my day, so I think it's best to just try to promptly make my way out of there without creating chaos. I decide it would be a good idea to pull out my phone, pretend to talk to my mom as we begin walking back to the main road. My friend and I are calmly walking down the tracks while I have the phone up to my ear. I'm saying things like, "Yeah, we're at the tracks. We're on our way home." Just making stuff up so this guy thinks my mom is aware of my exact location. There is a point where we have to walk directly past the man in order to make it out to our destination. It's at this point where he opens his mouth and says clear as day, "I know you're not on the phone." At this point my fight or flight kicks in and I'm terrified. Up until this moment, the creepy man had not directly said or done anything to make us think he was a direct threat. The situation was uncomfortable enough that my friend and I thought we better head out. When the man said these words to me, I quickly realized that the perceived threat was both real and dangerous. As soon as my brain registered what he said, my friend and I both ran for our lives. I was never one to enjoy physical activity, let alone running, but I could have won an Olympic medal that day. I ran so fast that my flip-flop broke, and I ended up running barefoot on the gravel that lined the tracks. I was so scared that if I looked back, I would see him running after me, so I didn't. When I finally began running out of steam, I quickly looked back and saw the man standing right where we had left him. He didn't run after us, but I couldn't shake the fear of turning around and seeing him chasing me. When we finally made it to the open road, I quickly called my mom and told her what happened. She was conveniently driving down the exact road we were on and pulled up about 2 minutes later and took us home. My friend and I had never been so scared in our lives. I haven't been to those train tracks since, and to this day I still think about the man who knew I wasn't on the phone and what his intentions were that day. I've done quite well for myself as an adult, but when I was younger we were very, very poor. In middle school I lived in government housing projects that were like little one-level apartments, with 2 apartments sharing a wall each, all spaced apart. There were woods directly behind the cluster of apartments, with no gate in between, but no one ever went into the woods, which I learned the reason for due to this incident. These apartments were very poorly made, and the windows could easily be popped in and out, never mind a lock. The front door was somewhat sturdy, but with a good kick, it would have easily been opened. My dad was a pretty stocky bodybuilder type, so I had a false sense of security and would leave my window blinds open at night, as my room faced some trees that would blow in the wind. I loved nature and wasn't afraid of the dark, so I liked watching the trees as I fell asleep. Our apartment's front door was facing the woods, as was my best friend's behind our building. As you walk in the front door, the hallway is on the left. My room was at the end of the hallway on the right. My big window that took up most of the wall was on the left, and my bed was sideways facing both walls, so I could lay on my side and watch the trees move. The woods were about a field away facing our front door, so I couldn't see it from my room. This was just a small area of trees and vegetation. One night, I woke up feeling a sense of unease, and through my sleepy haze made out the figure of a large man standing at my window watching me sleep, with total confidence, not caring at all if he was seen. He was in a big coat and looked quite burly, and average to a taller height. It was completely dark in my room and outside, just barely illuminated by moonlight. I had just cracked my eyes open and I froze once I realized what I was seeing. I kept my eyes as closed as possible, just enough to peer at him in the darkness, literally rolled out of my bed to the side not facing the window, and shouted for my dad who was across the hall with both of our doors open as I crawled out. Not the smartest, but I was dumb at 12 years old. He hadn't gone to sleep yet and was in my room in a heartbeat as the man took off. He went to run out the front door yelling threats as well, which probably wasn't smart, but the guy was gone. I truly believe he never came in before or after this just due to my dad's sheer size and build, but I'll never know. A few nights later, I was spending the night at my friend's, who lived directly behind us with the same layout. Her room was the first room on the left with her window facing the woods and our apartment blocking the view. Her sister's was the second on the left, and her mom and toddler sister were in the room on the right, like mine in my own apartment. We finished watching Dave Chappelle and went to do one another's hair in her room, with her older sister helping us, while her mom and little sister went to bed. Not long after, we heard screaming from her mom's room and heavy stomping feet. Her older sister swung open the door to the room we were in, and there's just a flash of a huge white man in his 30s to 40s, running down the hall towards the living room and front door, and her mom behind him with a butcher knife, hacking at the air and screaming bloody murder. The dude flew out the door and towards the woods, while her mom locked her door and called the cops. This man had the audacity to pop open the window and crawl into bed that was pushed up against the window just slightly under it, not realizing this woman was a whole Amazon warrior who slept with a butcher knife and would clearly wake up to protect her child. She was quick and slashed at him, though I'm not sure of the damage since I was ushered home directly after. The cops went looking in the woods for him and found him and another man quite similar to him living and hiding out there together. They were also responding to a call from a frantic mother whose little girl had been taken that day as well from our housing units, and they found her with those creeps. She had been there all day and night with them and was around 3 or 4 years old. They were taken to jail, and that's the last I heard of it, as the adults didn't let us in on adult conversation. Poor little girl was probably traumatized, and I hope she's been able to heal. I can't imagine what could have happened if my friend's mom hadn't been so quick and slept with a weapon, or if he had decided to fight instead of run. I still don't understand why he didn't try to overpower her, but it's possible she injured him. After this, my dad explained to me how sometimes drug addicts or homeless people would hang out in those woods. So to the creepy dude who liked to peep and kidnap, let's not ever meet again. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please make sure you subscribe for future content and leave a thumbs up on this video because it helps it perform at a much better rate. My email is in the description box below, so send in your true scary stories now. Until we meet again, stay sinful.